He said, "How do you sing like that? Where do you get it from?" I said, "Well, listen."
Hidden behind the velvet ropes and gold records, there's one part of Elvis Presley's mansion that remains completely off limits, even to his closest friends, family, and staff. For decades, the upstairs of Graceland has been sealed away, preserved exactly as it was the day Elvis died. Tourists can roam the halls, gaze at the jungle room, and stand by his grave, but no one is allowed beyond that staircase. Why? What's so disturbing about what lies behind those locked doors? Stay tuned as we uncover the secrets the Presley estate has tried to keep quiet. The Legend of Graceland. In March 1957, a young man stood at the gates of a sprawling southern mansion in Memphis, Tennessee. He was only 22 years old, but his name was already being screamed in concert halls across America. Elvis Presley had arrived, and he was about to buy himself a kingdom. The mansion was called Graceland. It sat on nearly 14 acres of land, surrounded by tall trees and rolling hills. The house itself was grand but tired, a two-story colonial revival built in 1939 by a local doctor's family. It had white columns out front, large windows, and 23 rooms inside. For most people, it would have been a dream home. For Elvis, it was just the beginning. He paid $102,500 for it. His mother, Gladys, cried when she saw it. She had grown up poor in Mississippi, living in a two-room shack with no electricity. Now, her son was handing her the keys to a mansion. Elvis told her it was theirs, hers, his father Vernon's, and his. A place where they could finally be safe from the world outside. But Elvis didn't just move into Graceland. He transformed it. He poured his personality into every corner of the house. The living room became a showcase of his taste. Deep blues, gold accents, and a massive white couch that stretched across the room. The dining room shimmered with mirrors and chandeliers. Downstairs, he built the famous jungle room, with green shag carpet covering the floor and even the ceiling. Animal prints, carved wooden furniture, and a stone waterfall turned it into something out of a fever dream. There was a music room where Elvis would sit at the piano for hours, working out melodies or just playing for himself. A billiard room with colorful fabric draped across the ceiling. A racquetball court out back. Graceland wasn't just a house. It was a physical reflection of Elvis himself, bold, excessive, and unlike anything anyone had ever seen. But the real heart of Graceland wasn't downstairs where guests gathered. It was upstairs. That's where Elvis lived. The second floor of Graceland was off limits to almost everyone. It was Elvis's private world, his bedroom, his bathroom, his office, and Lisa Marie's room when she visited. Staff members who worked at Graceland for decades never set foot up there. Friends from the Memphis Mafia, his inner circle of companions, were only invited upstairs on rare occasions. Even Priscilla, during their marriage, knew that upstairs was Elvis's sanctuary. Those who did see it described it in hushed tones. One former staff member recalled that the upstairs felt like stepping into a time capsule. Elvis's bedroom was dark and quiet, with heavy curtains that blocked out the sun. He kept the temperature cold and the lights dim. His bathroom was larger than most people's bedrooms, with books stacked by the toilet and a television mounted on the wall. This was where he spent hours alone, reading, thinking, and escaping. The upstairs wasn't glamorous. It wasn't for show. It was where Elvis could finally stop being Elvis Presley. And it was there, behind those locked doors at the top of the staircase, that the world's biggest star would one day take his final breath. Even now, nearly 50 years after his death, no one is allowed upstairs. The staircase remains roped off, the doors stay closed, and the mystery of what's inside has only grown with time. Elvis' final years. By the early 70s, Elvis Presley was no longer the lean, electric performer who had shocked America on television. He was still the king. He still sold out arenas. But behind the sequin jumpsuits and the Vegas spotlight, something was breaking down. Elvis was exhausted. He had been performing non-stop for nearly 2 decades. The touring schedule was relentless, sometimes 2 shows a night, city after city, week after week. His marriage to Priscilla had crumbled. She left him in 1917 too, taking their daughter Lisa Marie with her. The divorce shattered him. Friends said he never truly recovered. And then there were the pills. Elvis had always struggled with sleep. Even in his early years, he would stay up all night, pacing the halls of Graceland, talking, singing, and watching movies in his private screening room. But by the 70s, His insomnia had become unbearable. Doctors prescribed him medication, sleeping pills to knock him out, stimulants to wake him up, painkillers for the chronic back pain that plagued him after years of high-energy performances. The prescriptions piled up: Demerol, Placidol, Valium, Dilaudid, Quaaludes. Elvis took them in handfuls. He convinced himself they weren't drugs, they were medicine, prescribed by doctors, so they must be safe. But his body was collapsing under the weight of it all. His weight ballooned. His face became puffy and swollen, his speech slurred. On stage, he sometimes forgot lyrics or stumbled through songs. Fans still cheered, but those closest to him saw the truth. The upstairs of Graceland became Elvis's entire world. He rarely came down anymore unless he absolutely had to. The layout of the second floor was simple but personal. At the top of the staircase was a small hallway. To the right was Lisa Marie's bedroom, decorated in soft pinks and whites, waiting for her visits. Straight ahead was Elvis's office, cluttered with paperwork, contracts, letters, and records he'd been meaning to listen to. To the left was his bedroom, a large dark space with blackout curtains that kept the room in perpetual twilight. And then there was the bathroom. Elvis's bathroom was enormous. It had red carpeting, mirrored walls, and a padded black leather chair. There was a television mounted high on the wall so he could watch while he sat. Stacks of books lined the counters: spiritual texts, philosophy, conspiracy theories. This was where Elvis spent hours every day, reading, thinking, and trying to make sense of his life. The Memphis Mafia, his loyal group of friends and bodyguards who had followed him for years, noticed the change. Red West, one of Elvis's oldest friends, later recalled how Elvis would lock himself upstairs for days at a time. He'd call down at 3 or 4 in the morning, asking for food or demanding that someone come up to talk. But even then, only a select few were allowed in. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager, described the upstairs as the kingdom. That's where Elvis made his decisions, where he held court, where he controlled everything. But it was also where he was most vulnerable. Up there, behind closed doors, Elvis didn't have to pretend. He didn't have to be strong. He could collapse. His behavior became more erratic. He'd stay awake for 48 hours straight, watching television, talking on the phone, playing piano in the middle of the night. Then he'd take a handful of sleeping pills and crash for an entire day. His mood swung wildly. One moment he'd be laughing and generous, handing out Cadillacs to friends. The next, he'd be paranoid, angry, convinced people were out to betray him. Larry Geller, Elvis's spiritual advisor and hairdresser, spent countless hours with him upstairs. He said Elvis was searching for something: peace, meaning, answers to questions about life and death. But the pills clouded everything. The tragedy was that downstairs, Graceland still looked like a palace. Visitors who came to the house saw the grand living room, the jungle room, the gold records on the walls. They saw wealth and success. But upstairs, just beyond that roped-off staircase, Elvis was drowning. His father, Vernon, worried constantly. He'd walk past the staircase and hear music playing at 4 in the morning, knowing his son was awake again, spiraling. But Vernon didn't know how to help. No one did. Elvis was surrounded by people, but he was utterly alone. By the summer of 1977, Elvis was barely holding on. His face was bloated. His breathing was labored. He struggled to walk across a room. Doctors warned him that his heart couldn't take much more. But the tours kept coming. The pills kept flowing. On the night of August 15, 1977, Elvis returned to Graceland after a dentist appointment. He went upstairs with Ginger Alden, his girlfriend at the time. He told her he was going to read in the bathroom for a while. She went to sleep in his bedroom. It was the last time anyone saw him alive. What happened in those final hours, alone in that bathroom, behind locked doors at the top of the stairs, would become one of the most haunting mysteries in music history. Because when morning came, Elvis Presley was gone, and the upstairs of Graceland would be sealed forever. The day Elvis died. The morning of August 16, 1977, started like so many others at Graceland. The sun rose over Memphis, casting long shadows across the mansion's white columns. Inside, the house was quiet. Elvis had been awake most of the night, as usual. He said he was going to the bathroom to read, or so everyone thought. Ginger Alden woke up alone in Elvis's bed around 1:30 in the afternoon. She looked around the dark bedroom, disoriented. Elvis wasn't beside her. She called out his name. No answer. She sat up, listening. The house was silent. She walked toward the bathroom. The door was slightly open, She pushed it wider and stepped inside. What she saw would haunt her forever. Elvis was lying face down on the red carpet, his arms tucked beneath him. His body was stiff, his face was pressed against the floor. He was wearing gold pajama bottoms, but no shirt. A book lay nearby, one of the spiritual texts he'd been reading the night before. Ginger screamed. She ran to the phone and called downstairs. "Come quick!" she shouted, her voice cracking with panic. Within seconds, Joe Esposito and Al Strada, two of Elvis's closest aides, came rushing up the stairs. They burst into the bathroom and froze. Joe dropped to his knees and tried to turn Elvis over. His body was heavy and cold. Joe checked for a pulse. Nothing. He started CPR, pressing down hard on Elvis's chest, breathing into his mouth. Al ran to call an ambulance. Downstairs, the house erupted into chaos. Staff members were crying, shouting, running in every direction. Vernon Presley stumbled toward the staircase, his face white with shock. "What's happening?" he kept asking. "What's wrong with my boy?" The ambulance arrived within minutes. Paramedics raced up the stairs with a stretcher. They found Joe still performing CPR, sweat pouring down his face, refusing to give up. The paramedics took over. They hooked Elvis up to monitors. They injected adrenaline directly into his heart. They tried everything, but Elvis Presley was already gone. They carried him down the grand staircase on the stretcher, his face covered with an oxygen mask. Vernon followed behind, sobbing. The ambulance tore out of Graceland's gates, sirens screaming, racing toward Baptist Memorial Hospital, but it was too late. At 3:30 p.m., doctors officially pronounced Elvis dead. He was 42 years old. The cause of death, they said, was cardiac arrhythmia, an irregular heartbeat. But everyone who knew Elvis understood the real story. His heart had simply given out, worn down by years of prescription drugs, exhaustion, and a lifestyle that had pushed his body beyond its limits. Within hours, the news spread across the world. Radio stations interrupted their programming. Television networks cut to breaking news. Elvis Presley is dead. The words didn't seem real. How could the king be gone? Outside Graceland, fans began to gather. At first, it was just a few people, standing silently at the gates, holding flowers. Then dozens arrived, then hundreds. By nightfall, thousands of people lined the street, weeping, singing Elvis's songs, and lighting candles. The vigil would last for days. Inside Graceland, the chaos was unbearable. Phone lines were jammed with calls from reporters, celebrities, and fans, desperate for information. Priscilla Presley flew in from California with 9-year-old Lisa Marie. And upstairs, in the place where Elvis had spent his final moments, a decision was being made. No one could go up there. Not the press, not the fans, not even most of the family. The bathroom where Elvis died, the bedroom where he'd slept, the office where he'd worked, all of it had to be sealed. The Presley family made the decision quickly, but it was driven by more than just grief. They knew what the upstairs represented. It was where Elvis had been at his most vulnerable, his most human. It was where the pills were kept, where the decline had happened, where the myth of the king had cracked and revealed the broken man underneath. If the world saw that, if reporters got inside, if photographers snapped pictures of the medicine bottles, the unmade bed, the bathroom where he'd collapsed, it would destroy everything. Elvis's image, his legacy, the carefully constructed legend of the boy from Tupelo who became the king of rock and roll, it would all come crashing down. So they locked the doors. They roped off the staircase, and they made an announcement to the press. Out of respect for Elvis's memory and his family's privacy, the upstairs of Graceland would remain closed. It was a decision that seemed reasonable at the time, a grieving family protecting their loved one's dignity, but it also created something else, a mystery. Because once those doors were locked, people couldn't stop wondering, what's really up there? What are they hiding? And why, after all these years, does no one talk about it? The upstairs of Graceland became a sealed tomb, and like all tombs, it would be haunted by questions no one was allowed to answer. The locked rooms. For nearly 50 years, the upstairs of Graceland has remained frozen in time. The doors are locked. The staircase is roped off with a velvet cord, and beyond that barrier lies one of the most protected spaces in American pop culture history. But what's actually up there? According to those few who have seen it, the upstairs of Graceland looks almost exactly as it did on August 16, 1977. Elvis's bedroom is still dark and cold, the temperature kept low just the way he liked it. The blackout curtains remain drawn. His king-size bed is still made, though no one sleeps in it. On the nightstand sit books he never finished reading. Spiritual texts, biographies, mysteries. A television sits across from the bed, silent now, but once playing around the clock while Elvis tried to distract himself from sleep. His clothes still hang in the closet. Racks of jumpsuits, leather jackets, and custom-made shirts line the walls. Shoes are arranged on shelves. A jewelry box sits on the dresser, filled with rings and necklaces he wore on stage. Everything is exactly where he left it. The office down the hall is equally untouched. Stacks of contracts and letters cover the desk. Records lean against the walls, albums Elvis wanted to listen to, demos he planned to review. A telephone sits on the desk, its cord coiled and dusty. The chair is pushed back slightly, as if Elvis just stood up and walked away. And then there's the bathroom. The red carpet is still there. The mirrored walls still reflect empty space. The books are stacked where Elvis left them. The television is mounted on the wall, its screen black. This is the room where Elvis died, and it has become the most haunted space in Graceland. Not because of ghosts, but because of what it represents. This is where the king's story ended. And no one, except a chosen few, has been allowed inside since. Who are those few? Priscilla Presley has been upstairs, though she rarely speaks about it. She was married to Elvis for 6 years, and the upstairs was part of her life then. But after his death, returning there became too painful. She said in interviews that the upstairs is Elvis's private world and should remain that way. Lisa Marie Presley entered occasionally, especially when she inherited Graceland after Vernon died in 1979. She was the owner of the estate, and the upstairs held memories of her father, memories of running through those halls as a little girl, of sleeping in her pink bedroom, of knocking on her daddy's door in the middle of the night. For Lisa Marie, the upstairs wasn't a museum, it was home. She fiercely protected it until her own death in 2023. A handful of estate staff members have also been inside, but only for preservation purposes. Graceland's archivists occasionally enter to check on the condition of items, to monitor humidity and temperature, to ensure nothing is decaying. They wear gloves, they take notes. They don't touch anything unless absolutely necessary. Their job is to maintain the space, not to explore it. And that's it. That's the list. No tour guides have ever been upstairs. No journalists, no photographers, no celebrities, no matter how famous or how close they were to Elvis. The upstairs is off limits, and the Presley estate has never wavered on that rule. Naturally, this has sparked endless speculation. Some fans believe the upstairs is haunted. They claim Elvis's spirit never left Graceland, that he still walks those halls late at night. Security guards who work the graveyard shift have reported strange occurrences, footsteps on the second floor when no one is supposed to be there, the sound of music drifting down from upstairs, lights flickering in windows that should be dark. One former security guard told a Memphis newspaper that he once heard piano music coming from upstairs at 3 a.m. He walked to the base of the staircase and listened. The melody was faint but unmistakable. It sounded like gospel, the kind of music Elvis loved to play late at night. The guard didn't go up to investigate. He wasn't allowed. But he swears he heard it. Other fans have darker theories. They believe the upstairs is kept locked because it would shatter the myth of Elvis if people saw it. They think the estate is hiding the true extent of Elvis's addiction, the pill bottles, the drug paraphernalia, the evidence of how far he'd fallen. Opening those doors, they argue, would turn Elvis from a legend into a cautionary tale. There's some truth to that theory. The upstairs was where Elvis's decline was most visible. It's where the pills were stored, where he isolated himself, where his body finally gave out. If the public saw the reality of those rooms, it would be impossible to separate the man from the icon. And for an estate that generates millions of dollars a year from Elvis's image, that's a risk they're not willing to take. But beyond the rumors and the theories, there's a simpler truth. The upstairs of Graceland is a time capsule. It's a snapshot of Elvis's life, preserved exactly as it was on the day he died. And time capsules aren't meant to be opened. They're meant to exist, untouched, unaltered, holding their secrets close. Graceland has become a shrine. More than 600,000 people visit every year, walking through the jungle room, standing in front of the gold records, taking pictures by the gates. They see the legend, they see the glamour, but they never see the upstairs. And maybe that's the point. The official explanation from the Presley estate has never changed. When asked why the upstairs of Graceland remains closed to the public, they give the same answer every time. It's a private space, meant to preserve Elvis's dignity and respect his memory. The true reason behind the secrecy. It sounds noble, respectful, like a family honoring their loved one's final wish for privacy. But dig deeper, and the truth becomes more complicated. The upstairs isn't just a private space. It's a crime scene of sorts, not in the legal sense, but in the way it exposes the darkest chapter of Elvis's life. It's where the myth of the king collides with the reality of the man. And for the Presley estate, which has built a multi-million-dollar empire on Elvis's image, that reality is too dangerous to reveal, because the upstairs is where Elvis's addiction lived. Downstairs, Graceland is a celebration. The jungle room is quirky and fun. The gold records gleam on the walls. The jumpsuits are displayed like works of art. Tourists leave feeling inspired, in awe of a man who rose from poverty to become the biggest star in the world. That's the story Graceland tells. But upstairs tells a different story. Upstairs is where the pill bottles were kept, dozens of them, lined up on bathroom counters and nightstands. Prescription bottles with Elvis's name printed on the labels. This is where Elvis took handfuls of pills every night, trying to sleep, trying to wake up, trying to numb the pain that never seemed to go away. This is where his weight ballooned, where his speech slurred, where he shuffled from room to room in a fog, barely able to function. Friends who saw him in those final months described a man who was unrecognizable, puffy, sweating, confused. The upstairs was the theater where Elvis's slow-motion collapse played out, day after day, until his body finally gave up. And the estate knows that if people saw that space, really saw it, walked through it, absorbed the reality of what happened there, it would change everything. Elvis wouldn't be the king anymore. He'd be a victim. A cautionary tale about fame, excess, and the people who enable destruction instead of stopping it. The estate has worked for nearly 5 decades to preserve Elvis's legend, to keep him larger than life. Opening the upstairs would make him heartbreakingly human. Angie Marchese, who worked as Graceland's vice president of archives and exhibits for years, has spoken carefully about the upstairs. In interviews, she emphasized that every item in those rooms is preserved for historical purposes. Temperature and humidity are carefully controlled. Items are cataloged, nothing is removed or altered. But she also acknowledged something chilling. The upstairs is exactly as Elvis left it. We've preserved it as a moment in time. A moment in time, the day Elvis died. That's what the upstairs represents. Not Elvis at his peak, not Elvis the performer, but Elvis at the end. And that's not the image the estate wants to sell. For Lisa Marie Presley, the decision to keep the upstairs closed was deeply personal. She didn't see it as a museum exhibit or a tourist attraction. She saw it as her father's home. In interviews before her death, she was fiercely protective of that space. In her words, "That's where her father lived. That's where she has my memories of him." It's not for public consumption. It's not a show. Lisa Marie spent time upstairs as a child. She remembered running down those hallways, climbing into her father's enormous bed, sitting with him while he read or watched television. To her, the upstairs wasn't dark or tragic. It was where her daddy was. And after he died, it became sacred ground, a place where she could still feel close to him, where his presence lingered in every object and every shadow. So the upstairs remained closed, not just to protect Elvis's image, but to protect his humanity. Because here's the deeper truth. Elvis Presley was a man who gave everything to the world. He performed until his body broke. He smiled for every camera. He signed every autograph. He lived his entire adult life in the public eye, with no privacy, no boundaries, no escape. The upstairs was the only place he had left. It was his refuge, his sanctuary. The one space where he didn't have to be Elvis Presley, the icon. He could just be Elvis, tired, struggling, human, and even in death, he deserves to keep that space for himself. What it means today. Every year, more than 600,000 people walk through the gates of Graceland. They come from every corner of the world: Tokyo, London, Sao Paulo, Sydney, pilgrims making the journey to Memphis to stand in the home of the king. They toured the living room where Elvis entertained guests. They marvel at the jungle room with its waterfall and green shag carpet. They stand quietly in the meditation garden, where Elvis is buried alongside his mother, father, and grandmother. They take pictures. They leave flowers at his grave. But there's one place they can never go. At the base of the grand staircase, a velvet rope stretches across the bottom step. Above it, the stairs climb into darkness. And that's as close as anyone gets. Tour guides are trained not to linger there. When groups pass by, the guides keep walking, directing attention to the dining room or the gold record wall. They don't encourage questions about the upstairs. They don't speculate. If someone asks what's up there, the answer is always the same. That area remains private, out of respect for the Presley family. But everyone wonders. Visitors stop at that rope and stare up the staircase. They crane their necks, trying to catch a glimpse of the second floor. Some take pictures of the stairs, as if the camera might reveal something their eyes can't see, a magnetic curiosity that no amount of official explanation can satisfy. Because that locked staircase has become part of Elvis's mystique. In a world where everything is documented, photographed, and shared online, the upstairs of Graceland is one of the last true mysteries. It's a place that exists in rumor and imagination more than in reality, and that mystery keeps Elvis alive in a way nothing else could. Think about it. If the upstairs were open, if tourists could walk through Elvis's bedroom, stand in the bathroom where he died, rifle through his closet, it would become ordinary. Just another room in a museum. People would take selfies. They'd post pictures on Instagram. The magic would be gone, but because it's forbidden, it stays sacred. The locked staircase has become a symbol of something larger than Graceland itself. It represents the line between public and private, between legend and man, between what we're allowed to know and what we'll never understand. Elvis spent his entire life giving pieces of himself away. His voice, his image, his time, his energy. Fans took everything they could, and he let them. But the upstairs, that was his. And even now, decades after his death, it remains his. There's something beautiful in that, something almost defiant.